Snow crunched under heavy boots as Bjorn trudged across the frozen wasteland. His breath formed white clouds in the bitter air, and ice crystals had already formed on his beard. The wind howled like angry wolves, cutting through even his thermal suit. He pulled his coat tighter and checked his scanner again. Still another 20 miles to the mining settlement. His ship lay broken 3 days behind him, shot down by raiders who thought he carried valuable cargo. They learned too late that mercenaries traveling alone rarely carried anything worth stealing. Bjorn had escaped with his life, his weapons, and enough supplies for a week. That would be enough if he kept moving. The planet Frosthaven earned its name honestly. Ice covered everything as far as the eye could see. Mountains of frozen water reached toward a pale sun that gave light but little warmth. This was humanity's idea of expansion, claiming worlds that would kill you if you stood still too long. Bjorn had seen worse during his 20 years in the military, but not by much. Something metallic glinted in the distance, barely visible through the blowing snow. Bjorn adjusted his path toward it. Maybe shelter, maybe salvage. Either would be welcome. As he drew closer, he saw it was a ship, but not human design. The hull was smooth and organic-looking, more grown than built. It had crashed hard, digging a deep furrow in the ice. He approached carefully with his plasma axe ready. Unknown alien ships meant unknown dangers. Most species humanity had met were friendly enough, but some were not. Better to be cautious. The hull was breached in several places, and snow had already begun filling the interior. His scanner showed no power signatures, no active systems. Whatever this ship had been, it was dead now. Bjorn climbed through the largest breach and into darkness. His helmet light cut through the gloom, revealing walls that seemed to pulse with faint color even in death. Strange symbols covered every surface. The air inside was warmer than outside, which made no sense for a dead ship. He moved deeper, following the warmth. A sound stopped him, soft and weak like a whimper. His hand tightened on his axe. The sound came again from a chamber ahead. Bjorn moved to the doorway and looked inside. A creature lay on the floor, small and broken. It looked like the dragons from old Earth stories, all scales and wings and sharp edges, but tiny, no bigger than a large dog. Its scales were beautiful even in distress, shifting colors like oil on water. One wing was bent at a wrong angle, and burns covered its side. The creature's eyes opened as Bjorn's light hit it, and it tried to bare its teeth. A weak flame flickered from its mouth and died. Bjorn had seen that look before. Fear mixed with defiance, the look of someone who knew they were dying, but refused to go quietly. He had seen it in the eyes of young soldiers, far from home and bleeding out in places they could not even pronounce. Something in his chest tightened. He should leave. Unknown alien creature, possibly dangerous, definitely not his problem. He had his own survival to worry about. The smart play was to keep walking, but Bjorn had never been good at the smart play. He lowered his axe and knelt slowly, making himself smaller and less threatening. The creature watched him with eyes that burned like small suns. Bjorn reached into his pack and pulled out a ration bar. The creature's eyes fixed on the food. Its body trembled, whether from cold or hunger or fear, Bjorn could not tell. He broke off a piece and tossed it gently toward the creature. It landed a few feet away. The creature did not move at first, clearly torn between hunger and caution. Then with painful slowness it dragged itself forward and snapped up the food. It swallowed without chewing and looked at Bjorn with those burning eyes again. Bjorn tossed another piece, closer this time. The creature ate it faster. A third piece. And the creature was close enough that Bjorn could see the delicate structure of its scales, the way they overlapped like armor. He set the rest of the ration bar down and slowly moved his hand toward the creature's injured wing. The creature growled, a sound like rocks grinding together. Bjorn froze but did not pull back. He kept his hand steady, palm open, non-threatening. After a long moment, the creature stopped growling. Bjorn gently touched the bent wing. The creature hissed but did not pull away. He worked carefully, using his field medical kit to stabilize the wing and treat the burns. The creature watched him the entire time, those strange eyes never blinking. When Bjorn finished, he sat back. The creature looked at its bandaged wing, then at Bjorn. Something changed in its expression. The fear was still there, but something else had joined it. Recognition, maybe? Understanding that Bjorn meant no harm, Bjorn set out the last of his rations. The creature ate everything, its movements growing stronger with each bite. When the food was gone, the creature curled into a ball and closed its eyes. Within moments, it was asleep. Bjorn smiled despite himself. He had seen that too. the way soldiers would collapse into sleep once they finally felt safe. He gathered broken pieces of the ship and built a rough shelter around the creature, blocking the worst of the wind. He fed his small portable heater with power cells he could barely spare. The creature slept on, its breathing steady and deep. As darkness fell outside, Bjorn found himself unable to leave. He told himself it was just tactical, the shelter was good and he needed rest too. But he knew the truth. Something about the creature pulled at him. Maybe it was loneliness, or maybe it was the need to save something after failing to save so many others. Images flashed through his mind. Not his own thoughts, but something else. He saw brief flickers of memory. A massive ship battle, explosions lighting up space, a huge creature fighting desperately, and the small one being pushed into an escape pod. The images were fragile and faint, like dreams half remembered. The creature was trying to communicate. One image came through clearer than the others. A massive form the same as the small creature but enormous, flying through stars. And with that image came a feeling, a concept more than words. Mother. Coming. Home. Bjorn looked at the sleeping creature and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. If that thing's mother was out there searching, and if she was as big as the image suggested, then his problems had just gotten much larger. His scanner beeped a warning. He checked it and went very still. Something was entering the planet's atmosphere. Something huge. The energy readings were like nothing in any human database. Not mechanical. Biological. Bjorn looked up through the broken hull at the sky. A red glow was spreading across the clouds, growing brighter by the second. The small creature stirred in its sleep and made a sound, something between a purr and a whistle. Bjorn checked his axe and stood. Whatever was coming, he would face it standing. He had made his choice when he fed the creature. No point in running now. Besides, something told him that running would not help. Whatever was up there could probably track its offspring across entire star systems. The red glow grew brighter, and the ice around him began to vibrate. Bjorn steadied himself and waited. His long and strange day was about to get stranger. The sky turned the color of blood. Bjorn stood at the breach in the alien ship's hull and watched something impossible descend through the clouds. Wings wider than city blocks blotted out the pale sun. The creature was beyond massive, beyond anything that should be able to fly. Its scales caught the light and threw it back in waves of crimson and gold. Behind him, the small creature woke and began making excited chirping sounds. It tried to stand on its injured leg and fell, but kept calling out. The sounds it made were joyful despite the pain. Bjorn understood without words. The little one was calling for its mother. The massive creature's head emerged from the clouds and Bjorn's breath caught. He had seen battleships smaller than this thing. Its eyes glowed like small stars, and when it opened its mouth he could see flames dancing in its throat. The creature's roar shook the ground hard enough to crack the ice. Alarms started blaring from his wrist scanner. Human settlements all over Frost Haven were going into panic mode. He could hear radio chatter even through the interference. Colonial defense forces scrambling fighters. Orbital weapons platforms powering up. Evacuation orders being screamed over every channel. To them, this was an alien attack. To Bjorn, standing in the wreckage with the injured baby, it looked a lot more like a mother searching for her child. The massive creature landed half a mile away, and the impact sent Bjorn stumbling. Ice and snow exploded upward in massive plumes. When it settled, Bjorn could see her clearly. She was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Old scars covered her scales, telling stories of 100 battles. Her claws could tear through starship hulls. Her breath could melt mountains. She turned her head toward the crashed ship, toward Bjorn. Those burning eyes fixed on him, and he felt the weight of her attention like physical pressure. His hand moved to his axe, then stopped. What would an axe do against something that size? He might as well threaten a hurricane with a butter knife. The little creature was crying out desperately now, dragging itself toward the breach. Bjorn made a decision that was either very brave or very stupid. He picked up the small one, careful of its injured wing, and carried it outside. The creature wriggled in his arms but did not try to escape. It just kept calling out. Bjorn walked toward the mother dragon. Each step felt heavier than the last. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to hide, to do anything but walk toward something that could kill him with a casual swipe. But he had learned long ago that sometimes the only way through fear was straight ahead. He stopped 50 feet away. The mother dragon lowered her massive head, bringing one eye level with Bjorn. That eye was bigger than his entire body. He could see his reflection in it, tiny and insignificant. He could feel heat radiating from her, could smell something like burning metal and ozone. Then her voice filled his head. Not words exactly, but concepts and feelings pressed directly into his thoughts. It was like being hit by a wave made of pure emotion and meaning. The pressure was enormous, painful even, but Bjorn gritted his teeth and held on. Protected mine. The concept was mixed with question marks, confusion, wonder. Bjorn did not know how to respond with thoughts, so he spoke aloud. His voice sounded small and weak against the howling wind. The young one was hurt. I could not leave it to die alone. He gently set the small creature down. It immediately rushed forward on 3 legs, chirping and whistling. The mother dragon's massive head swooped down, and her tongue, as big as a car, gently touched her offspring. The relief and joy that radiated from her was so strong that Bjorn felt tears forming in his eyes. He understood that feeling. He had felt it before, when recovering wounded soldiers, when finding survivors in rubble, the raw happiness of finding someone you thought was lost. The mother dragon examined her baby carefully, nosing at the bandaged wing, sniffing the treated burns. Then those enormous eyes turned back to Bjorn. This time the mental pressure was different. Softer, warmer, but no less intense. You gave aid. You gave food. You gave safety. The thoughts came with images. His own memories played back to him. Her seeing him feed her child, bandage the wing, build the shelter. She had pulled the memories from the little one's mind. Bjorn nodded, not sure if she would understand the gesture. Just doing what needed doing. A new concept crashed into his mind, so powerful it drove him to his knees. Flame oath. It came with a weight of meaning that human languages did not have words for. Sacred duty, life debt, family bond, forever link. All of these and more wrapped into a single burning idea. The dragon was declaring something, making a promise that would bind her and her bloodline to him across lifetimes. Bjorn felt something change inside him, like a door opening in his chest that he did not know existed. Suddenly he could feel the dragon's emotions, faint but present. Her fierce love for her child, her gratitude toward him, her ancient weariness and her determination to keep fighting. It was overwhelming. Jet engines screamed overhead. Bjorn looked up to see colonial fighters streaking across the sky, weapons hot. At the same time, ground forces were arriving, heavy armor and soldiers taking positions. They had come to defend the colony from what they saw as a monster. Colonel Hart's voice boomed from external speakers on the lead tank. Hostile alien entity. You will leave this planet immediately or be destroyed. Human in proximity to the creature, move away now. Bjorn struggled to his feet. This was about to go very wrong very fast. The mother dragon could destroy these forces without effort, but that would make humans and her kind enemies forever. He had to stop this. The dragon looked at him and he felt a question in his mind. Your kind comes with weapons. They mean harm. I can end them quickly. Should I? No, Bjorn said firmly. They do not understand. They are afraid. Then make them understand, Flame Brother. The title came with a sense of permanent naming. She had just claimed him as family in front of her young. There would be no taking that back. Bjorn started walking toward the human forces, hands raised. The mother dragon watched him go but did not move. The little one tried to follow, but she held it back with one massive claw. Hart's voice came again, angrier now.
Erickson, is that you?
What in hell are you doing? Stopping a war, Bjorn called back. Hold your fire and let me explain. Explain? That thing is a threat to every human on this planet. That thing is a mother looking for her child, Bjorn shouted. I helped her baby. She is not here to attack. She is here for her family. You helped it? Hart's voice dripped with disbelief. You gave aid to an unknown hostile alien. An injured child, Bjorn corrected. And because I did, she has sworn some kind of oath to me. She considers me family now, which means if you attack her, you are attacking someone under my protection. The silence stretched out. Bjorn could see Hart in the tank's command cupola, could see the man's face twisted in anger and confusion. Finally, Hart spoke again. You have lost your mind, Erickson. Step away from the creature now, or I will consider you a hostile as well. Bjorn looked back at the mother dragon. She had not moved, but he could feel her readiness. One word from him and she would defend herself. And defend him. Hundreds of soldiers would die. He looked at the small one, wrapped protectively under its mother's wing, looking at him with those bright eyes. He had made his choice when he shared his food. Everything that followed was just consequence. Bjorn turned back to face the human forces and spoke clearly. "Then I guess you will have to shoot me too, Colonel." "Because I am not moving." The mother dragon rumbled deep in her chest, and Bjorn felt her approval and determination flow through their new bond. Whatever came next, they would face it together. 10 seconds of silence felt like 10 hours. Bjorn stood between two forces that could each kill him without effort. Behind him, a creature capable of melting tanks with her breath. Before him, soldiers with enough firepower to level mountains. Both sides waited to see what would happen next. Colonel Hart broke the silence first. "Last warning, Erickson. Move aside or face charges of treason." Bjorn felt anger rise in his chest. 20 years he had served. 20 years of following orders, fighting battles, losing friends. And this was how it ended? Being called a traitor for showing mercy? He activated his combat suit's weapon systems. His plasma axe hummed to life, and targeting systems linked with his helmet display. It was a gesture more than anything. His equipment was nothing against this much military hardware. "Then I guess I am a traitor," Bjorn said. "Fire if you must." Hart's hand moved toward the firing controls. Time seemed to slow. Then the mother dragon moved. She did not attack. Instead, she stepped forward, placing herself between Bjorn and the human forces. Her wings swept down, creating a shield of armored scales. Bjorn felt the gesture through their bond. She was protecting him the same way she protected her young. Hart hesitated. Something about seeing the creature defend a human rather than attack made him pause. "What is going on here, Erickson?" "Talk fast." Bjorn gathered his thoughts. How could he explain what he barely understood himself? "Her kind are called Draal. They are old, Colonel. Older than our civilization. The little one was dying when I found it. I gave it food and medical care. In their culture, that created a bond. Something sacred. She considers me family now." "That is insane," Hart said, but his voice had less certainty in it. "Maybe," Bjorn agreed. "But it is real. I can feel her emotions, Hart. She is not here to harm anyone. She came for her child. That is all." Another voice cut in over the radio, higher-pitched and urgent. "Colonel, Orbital Defense is reporting multiple energy signatures incoming. Not human design. They are asking for permission to engage." Hart cursed. "How many?" "Sensors show 5 large vessels, sir. They are moving fast. ETA 20 minutes. Bjorn felt alarm pulse through his bond with the dragon. She lifted her head, sniffing the air as if she could smell danger coming from space. Her thoughts pressed into his mind, images of ships that were wrong somehow, twisted and mechanical and organic all at once. "The collective comes. Hunters. They followed me. Your kind is in danger." Bjorn turned to Hart. "She says something called the collective is coming. Hunters who have been chasing her. We have a bigger problem than her being here, Colonel." Hart's face darkened. "Why should I trust anything that creature says?" The dragon's thoughts became more urgent, more detailed. Bjorn saw visions of worlds stripped bare, of cities burning, of ships made from stolen biology. He saw her kind being hunted, captured, killed for their parts. He saw humans too in some of the visions being harvested like crops. "Because they hunt humans too," Bjorn said quietly. "We just have not met them yet. But they know about us. And they are coming." The radio crackled again. "Colonel, the unknown vessels are launching smaller craft. Thousands of them. They are heading toward our position. Defense satellites are engaging, but..." The transmission dissolved into static, then screams, then nothing. "Satellites are offline," another voice reported. "We have lost orbital coverage." Hart stared at Bjorn, then at the dragon, then at the sky where red streaks were beginning to appear as enemy craft entered the atmosphere. Bjorn could see the calculation happening behind the man's eyes. Trust the known threat or face the unknown one? "What are we dealing with?" Hart asked finally. The dragon sent images directly to Bjorn, who translated as best he could. "She says they are called the Collective, a hive mind empire that assimilates other species. They have been hunting the Draal for generations because their biology makes powerful weapons. They have been scouting human space for years. This is their first real attack. How do we fight them?" Bjorn felt the dragon's grim satisfaction. Finally, the right question. "She says they adapt quickly. Same tactic will not work twice. But they have weaknesses. Their hive mind has central nodes. Disrupt those and you can confuse their forces. And they have never fought humans before. They do not know how creative we can be." The first enemy craft broke through the clouds and Bjorn got his first good look at the collective. The ships were nightmares made real. Half machine, half flesh, all wrong. They moved like living things but sounded like factories. Weapon ports opened in their hulls like mouths. The dragon roared and launched herself into the sky. Flames erupted from her mouth and 3 enemy craft dissolved in the heat. She moved with impossible grace for something so large, twisting between enemy fire. The small one cried out, wanting to follow its mother, but smart enough to know it could not fight with a broken wing. Hart made his decision. All units engage the unknown hostiles. Protect the colony. Erickson, you are on my permanent list of problems, but right now I need you. What else can your friend tell us about these things? Bjorn smiled despite everything. She is not my friend, Colonel. She is family. And she says if we work together, we might actually survive this. The battle erupted around them. Collective drones swarmed like locusts, firing weapons that dissolved armor and flesh equally. Human forces returned fire, learning quickly that concentrated fire could break through their adaptive shielding. The mother dragon was everywhere at once, her flames turning dozens of drones into slag with each breath. Bjorn coordinated between both sides, translating the dragon's tactical information and combining it with human adaptability. When the dragon found a hive node ship, human artillery would focus fire on it. When human forces got pinned down, the dragon would sweep in and scatter the enemy. It was crude and desperate, but it was working. 3 larger ships descended, and Bjorn felt the dragon's fear spike through their bond. Harvesters. These were the things that captured her kind. They were massive, covered in cutting tools and holding cages. Worse, they were partly made from drow flesh. Captured dragons transformed into hunting machines. One of them locked onto the small dragon's energy signature. Bjorn saw its trajectory and realized what was about to happen. The creature was diving toward the baby, ignoring all other targets. Hart, I need covering fire on that big one now. We barely scratched those things, Erickson. Try anyway. Every weapon in the human arsenal opened fire on the harvester. Missiles, plasma cannons, railguns, everything. The barrage slowed the creature but did not stop it. It kept coming, its mechanical limbs reaching for the small dragon. Bjorn ran. His logical mind screamed that this was suicide, that he was just a man with an axe facing a monster the size of a building. But the baby was in danger. The baby who had trusted him, who had eaten from his hand. Family, the dragon had called him. Family protected each other. He reached the small one just as the harvester's claws descended. Bjorn raised his plasma axe and struck at the nearest mechanical limb. The weapon cut through, but barely. The harvester's attention turned to him, and Bjorn found himself staring into something that had once been like the mother dragon, but was now just a twisted puppet. He could see traces of awareness in its eyes. Whatever remained of the drow inside was screaming silently, trapped in its own corrupted body. The harvester's claw swept toward him, too fast to dodge. Then the mother dragon crashed into the harvester like a meteor. The impact shook the ground. The 2 massive creatures rolled across the ice, tearing chunks out of each other. The mother was larger and stronger, but the harvester had mechanical augments that gave it an edge. Bjorn pulled the small one away from the battle, sheltering it with his own body as the 2 giants fought. Through his bond, he felt the mother's rage and heartbreak. She recognized the harvester. It had been someone she knew, another drow, before the collective took it. I am sorry, Bjorn whispered to her, knowing somehow she could hear. I am so sorry. The mother dragon roared and tore into the harvester's main control node. The creature spasmed and went still. For just a moment, its eyes cleared. Real consciousness returned, just long enough for it to recognize what it had become. The freed drow used its last seconds to destroy other collective units with its dying strength, protecting the family it could no longer remember until the very end. Smoke filled the air and blood stained the ice. The battle had lasted 4 hours, and when it finally ended, both sides counted their losses. 1,200 colonists dead, 40 soldiers, 3 settlements burned to nothing. The collective forces had been destroyed or driven off, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. Bjorn sat on a chunk of broken concrete and tried not to think about the pain. His left arm was broken in 2 places. Burns covered his back where a drone's weapon had caught him. His ribs hurt with every breath. The medical team kept trying to get him on a stretcher, but he refused. There was too much work to do. The mother dragon lay nearby, her wounds being tended by a team of nervous scientists who were figuring out droll biology as they went. She had taken the worst of the fighting, drawing fire away from the human forces time and again. Deep cuts covered her scales, and one wing had a hole the size of a car burned through it. But she lived. So did her baby. The small one stayed close to Bjorn, making soft, worried sounds. It seemed to understand that he was hurt. Its tongue, rough and warm, kept licking his hand. Despite everything, Bjorn smiled. "I am fine, little one. Just need a minute." Colonel Hart approached, looking as tired as Bjorn felt. His armor was scorched and dented. Blood, not his own, spattered his helmet. He sat down next to Bjorn without being invited and stared at the ruins around them. "My superiors are going to hang me for not shooting you," Hart said conversationally. "Probably," Bjorn agreed. "They are definitely going to hang you for helping an alien." "Fair enough." Hart was quiet for a moment. "But if you had not done what you did, none of us would be alive. That thing and her baby saved more lives today than I can count, so I guess we are all traitors together." Bjorn looked at him in surprise. Hart shrugged. "My report is going to say that we engaged in first contact with a sentient species called the Draal, who warned us about a hostile force called the Collective, and who fought alongside human forces to defend the colony. Anyone who has a problem with that can come out here and file a complaint in person." "Thank you," Bjorn said quietly. "Do not thank me yet. Your part is not done." Hart pulled up a holographic display. "Colonial Command is screaming for information. They want to know everything about these collective things. How many of them are there? Where do they come from? What do they want? And most importantly, are they going to attack other human worlds?" Bjorn looked at the mother dragon. Through their bond, he felt her exhaustion and her sorrow for the fallen Draal, who had been turned into a harvester. But underneath that, he felt determination. She wanted to help. Needed to help. Because if humans fell to the Collective, there would be no one left to fight alongside the Draal. "Give me a minute," Bjorn said. He stood wincing and walked over to the dragon. Up close, she was even more impressive. Each scale was as big as his hand, and her breathing sounded like forge bellows. He placed his palm against her side, and information flowed through their bond. The images came faster now. He was getting better at understanding. He saw the Collective's empire, spanning dozens of star systems. Saw the hive mind's endless hunger for new biology to assimilate. Saw war fleets larger than anything humanity had ever built. Saw worlds dying, species extinct, cultures erased, but he also saw hope. The Collective was powerful but not invincible. They relied on their hive mind, which meant disrupting it could cripple entire fleets. They adapted to threats, but slowly when faced with truly novel tactics, and they had never fought humans before. They did not know about human stubbornness, about our refusal to quit even when logic said we should. Bjorn returned to Hart and shared what he had learned. The colonel's face grew darker with each detail. "How long before they attack Earth?" 6 months, maybe less. They are already scouting the inner colonies. Once they have enough data, they will strike everywhere at once. Then we need to prepare. Hart activated his radio. "Command, this is Hart. We need full military mobilization. We also need to establish formal diplomatic relations with the Draal. I am recommending Bjorn Eriksson as our first ambassador." Bjorn blinked. "You want me to what?" "You are the only human who can communicate with them properly. You have their trust, and apparently you are part of their family now, which I am told means something important." Hart gave him a tired smile. "Besides, you already went traitor for them. Might as well make it official." The mother dragon's thoughts pressed into Bjorn's mind. She was sending him images of other Draal, scattered across distant stars, families hiding, surviving, waiting for the Collective to find them. If humans and Draal worked together, both species might survive. Apart, both would fall. "There are more of them," Bjorn told Hart. "She wants me to meet the others, to convince them to join us, but they are hidden in deep space in places not on any human maps. The journey would take months. Can she show us the way?" Bjorn nodded. "She can, but there is a problem. She needs to heal first, and her baby needs time to recover, and we do not know if the Collective left any scouts behind. They could be tracking us right now." As if summoned by his words, alarms blared. A technician shouted across the command channel. "Contact!" Single ship, Collective design, breaking atmosphere. Everyone scrambled for weapons, but they were spent. Ammunition was low, soldiers exhausted, equipment damaged. They could fight, but it would cost them. The scout ship was smaller than the others, sleek and fast. It dove through the clouds and began scanning the battlefield. Looking for something specific, Bjorn felt the mother dragon's alarm spike. She struggled to stand despite her injuries. "They have found us. They know we are here. More will come. How long?" Bjorn asked aloud. "Days, maybe hours. We must leave, must hide. Must warn the others. Hart heard the exchange through Bjorn's translation. We cannot evacuate 30,000 people in hours. We need time. Then we buy time, Bjorn said. He looked at his broken arm, his burns, his exhausted body. Then he looked at the mother dragon, equally broken but equally determined. We lead them away. Make them chase us instead of attacking the colony. That is suicide, Hart said flatly. Maybe. But it is also the only play we have. Bjorn turned to the small dragon, who was looking at him with worried eyes.
Stay here.
Stay with the humans. They will protect you while you heal. The baby dragon made a sharp negative sound. It pressed against Bjorn's leg, making its intentions clear. Where he went, it would follow. The mother dragon sent agreement through the bond. My young has chosen you as soul twin. Where you go, it goes. This is our way. That is settled then, Bjorn said to Hart. Get us a ship. Something fast. We will draw the collective away and lead them on a chase across the stars. Buy you time to prepare defenses and evacuate civilians. And when the collective catches you, Bjorn checked his plasma axe, its power cell flickering but functional. Then we give them a fight they will remember. Hart stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. The Midgard is in dock. Diplomatic shuttle, upgraded engines, good shields. Not a warship, but it will move. I will have it prepped and ready in 2 hours. Make it 1, Bjorn said, watching the scout ship circle above. We do not have 2. The next hour was chaos. Medical teams pumped Bjorn full of painkillers and combat stimulants. They set his arm properly and gave him a fresh uniform. The mother dragon was too large to fit in any ship, but she did not need to. She could fly through space on her own, trailing the vessel. The small one would ride with Bjorn. The Midgard was ready exactly 59 minutes later. Bjorn stood at the boarding ramp with a skeleton crew, a pilot, an engineer, and 2 scientists who volunteered to document everything. Hart handed him a data pad containing every piece of information humanity had about the collective and about the Draal. Bring this to the other dragons, Hart said. Make them understand that we are worth allying with. And Erickson? Come back alive. That is an order. Bjorn saluted, military precision despite his injuries. I will do my best, sir. He boarded the ship with the small dragon at his heels. The mother dragon was already airborne, circling above. Through their bond, Bjorn felt her readiness and her fear. Not for herself, but for her young, for him. For the future that suddenly seemed more fragile than ever. The Midgard launched, breaking atmosphere in minutes. The collective scout ship immediately changed course to follow. Other signatures appeared on sensors, more ships coming to investigate. The chase had begun. Bjorn settled into the co-pilot seat and looked at the star charts. Somewhere out there, the last of the Draal were hiding. Somewhere out there was hope. He just had to survive long enough to find it. Space had no mercy for the wounded. The Midgard raced through the darkness with 3 collective ships in pursuit. Days blurred together into one long chase. Jump to a system. Rest for a few hours while the shields recharged. Then jump again before the hunters caught up. Bjorn lost track of how many times they had done this dance. His body screamed for real rest, but rest meant death. The mother dragon flew alongside the ship, visible through the viewport. She did not need sleep the way humans did. Her kind could rest while flying, shutting down parts of their massive brains in rotation. But Bjorn could feel her exhaustion through their bond. She was hurt badly, and flying through space without rest was making it worse. The small dragon, who the crew had started calling Ember because of its bright scales, stayed close to Bjorn. It was healing faster than its mother, the resilience of youth. The broken wing was already showing improvement. Sometimes Bjorn would wake from brief naps to find the little one curled against him, keeping watch while he slept. We cannot keep running, said Ruth, the ship's engineer. She was younger than Bjorn, maybe 30, with grease permanently staining her hands. The power cells are burning out from constant jumping. Another week and we will be dead in space. I know, Bjorn said. We just need to make it to the barrier. Once we cross into Draal space, they cannot follow. And you are sure there is a barrier? Asked Dr. Morris, one of the scientists. He was old, gray-haired, and constantly taking notes about everything they saw. You are trusting information from an alien through a psychic bond we do not understand. Bjorn looked at Ember, who tilted its head at him. Through his bond with the mother, he felt absolute certainty. She has not lied to me yet. I do not think she can, actually. The bond does not work that way. It shows truth as she knows it. That is still not science, Morris muttered, but he went back to his notes without further argument. The pilot, Lee, called from the cockpit. "We have got a problem. Long-range scanners are picking up a massive energy signature ahead. Something is waiting for us at the coordinates the dragon gave us." Bjorn rushed to the cockpit. The scanner display showed a ship that made the collective vessels look small. It was 15 miles long, all curves and spikes, organic and wrong. Collective design, but much older, much bigger. And directly between them and safety, terror flooded through the bond from the mother dragon. Bjorn knew the creature on the screen without being told. This was a fortress mind, the ultimate weapon of the collective. They only built these when they wanted to conquer entire worlds in one strike, and this one had been waiting for them. "They knew," Bjorn said quietly. "They knew where we were going." "They have been hurting us, so what do we do?" Lee asked. Bjorn thought hard. They could not fight something that size. They could not outrun it. The fortress mind would just track them wherever they went. And they could not go back. The 3 pursuing ships had caught up and were blocking that route. Unless an idea formed, reckless and desperate. But it might work. "Lee, how fast can this ship go without shields?"
Are you insane?
"We would be torn apart by micro-debris." "Answer the question." Lee checked his controls. "Twice our current speed, maybe more. But we would be dead in minutes from impacts. What if something cleared the path ahead of us? Burned away all the debris with enough heat?" Everyone looked at him. Ruth figured it out first. "You want the mother dragon to fly ahead of us and use her flames. We ride in her wake." "Exactly. She generates enough heat to vaporize anything in our path. We follow so close that we are in her thermal shadow. The fortress mind will not be able to react fast enough if we go straight through." Morris shook his head. "That is impossible. The precision required, the speeds involved, one mistake and we are vapor." "Do you have a better idea?" Bjorn asked. Silence answered him. Bjorn closed his eyes and reached through the bond. He showed the mother dragon his plan, felt her understanding and her fear. Not for herself, but for him. For her young. If this failed, they all died together. "I trust you, Flame Brother." Her thoughts carried determination mixed with something like affection. "If we die together. This is good." The mother dragon pulled ahead of the ship, positioning herself directly in front. The collective ships realized something was happening and accelerated, trying to close the distance. But they were too late. "Full power to engines," Bjorn ordered. "Drop all shields. Ruth, reroute everything to speed." "This is insane," Ruth said, but her hands were already moving across controls. "This is completely insane." The mother dragon opened her mouth and unleashed fire. Not the quick burst she used in combat, but a continuous stream of plasma hot enough to melt steel. Debris in their path simply ceased to exist. The fire carved a tunnel through space itself. "Now," Bjorn shouted. The Midgard shot forward, riding the destruction like a surfboard on a wave. The heat was incredible even through the hull. Warning alarms screamed. The cockpit temperature rose to dangerous levels. But they were moving faster than anything human-made had a right to move. The fortress mind tried to adjust, firing weapons into their path. But the mother dragon's flames consumed the projectiles before they could reach the ship. They barreled straight toward the massive vessel, and at the last possible second the mother dragon twisted aside. The Midgard followed, cutting so close to the fortress mind's hull that Bjorn could see individual plating sections. Then they were through. Past the blockade. The pursuing ships could not match their speed, and the fortress mind was too massive to turn quickly. Warning lights appeared ahead, the energy barrier marking drawl space. It was close, so close something hit them, a lucky shot from one of the pursuing ships, catching their engines. The Midgard lurched and alarms went critical. They were still moving toward the barrier, but not fast enough. The pursuing ships were catching up. Ember suddenly leapt from Bjorn's side and ran to the airlock. It stood there staring at him, and Bjorn felt its intention through their link. The small dragon was going to go outside and fight, protect its family the way its mother had. "No," Bjorn said, running after it. "You are not healed enough. You will die out there." The dragon made a sound like a bell ringing, clear and certain. It showed him images of being alone and dying in the crashed ship, of him sharing food, of being safe. It was returning the favor. This was its choice. The mother dragon roared through the bond, forbidding it, but Ember ignored her, hitting the airlock controls with one claw. The door opened to vacuum, and the small dragon launched itself into space. What happened next would become legend among both species. Ember flew at the pursuing ships with all the fury of youth and family love combined. Its flames were weak compared to its mother's, but the little dragon was fast and clever. It targeted weapon systems, engines, sensors, making itself an impossible target to hit, while crippling each ship's ability to fight. The mother dragon turned back, choosing to help her young despite the danger. Together, mother and child bought precious seconds. The Midgard limped toward the barrier, engines failing, hull breaching in a dozen places. "We are not going to make it," Lee said. Bjorn refused to accept that. He had not come this far to fail now. He rerouted life support to engines. The temperature in the cockpit dropped to freezing, and breathing became difficult. But they gained a few more seconds of speed. The barrier loomed ahead, shimmering with energy that made their sensors scream. The pursuing ships fired one last barrage. The weapons streaked toward them, too many to avoid. Bjorn braced for impact, then both dragons positioned themselves between the ship and the incoming fire. The weapons hit them instead, and Bjorn felt agony through the bond. They were hurt, badly hurt, but they stayed in position, protecting him, protecting the humans who had become family. The Midgard hit the barrier at speeds that should have torn the ship apart. Energy washed over them, and for a moment everything went white. Bjorn felt like he was being pulled apart and put back together. His bond with the dragons screamed with feedback. Then they were through, on the other side of the barrier, in a star system that glowed with strange colors. The pursuing collective ships crashed against the barrier and bounced back, unable to follow. They were safe. The Midgard drifted powerless but alive. Through the viewport, Bjorn could see both dragons floating nearby, barely conscious. They had made it. All of them had survived. Ahead, dozens of shapes emerged from behind planets and moons. More Droll, larger than even the mother dragon. Ancient ones with scales that looked like star stuff. They surrounded the ship, not hostile but cautious, waiting to see what would happen next. Bjorn opened a broadcast channel, hoping they could hear him somehow. "My name is Bjorn Eriksson. I am human. I come seeking alliance. Your kind and mine face the same enemy. Together we can survive. Apart, we will fall." The ancient dragons regarded him in silence. Then, as one, they opened their minds to his. The pressure was enormous, like standing in a hurricane made of thought. But underneath the pressure, Bjorn felt something else. Curiosity, interest, and maybe, just maybe, hope. Years later, people would ask Bjorn what it felt like to be the first human to meet the Council of Ancients. He never found good words for it. How could he explain standing before beings who had watched stars being born? Who remembered empires that humanity had not discovered yet? Who carried wisdom so old that it felt like gravity? The council chamber was built from crystal that sang when light touched it. 12 ancient Droll circled the room, each one massive beyond measure. The smallest was twice the size of the mother dragon. The largest looked like it could swallow moons. Their scales held colors that Bjorn's eyes could barely process, shades that existed beyond normal vision. Grandmother Sira sat at the center, so old that parts of her had turned to stone. But her eyes burned brighter than any star, and when she spoke in his mind, Bjorn felt the weight of millennia behind each thought. "Why should we trust your kind, small warrior? Humans are young, reckless. You spread across stars like fire, consuming all you touch. We have seen species like yours before. They burn bright and die quickly, taking others with them." Bjorn stood straight despite his exhaustion. The journey here had taken months. His crew had survived on emergency rations while the Midgard was towed to this place by Droll volunteers. Ember and the mother dragon were recovering in healing pools, their wounds deep but not fatal. He was alone before the council, and everything depended on his words. "You are right," Bjorn said aloud, his voice small in the massive chamber. "We are young. We make mistakes. We fight among ourselves. We rush into danger without thinking." He paused. "But we also adapt faster than any species you have met. We create new solutions to old problems, and when we make friends, we stand by them no matter the cost." The council remained silent, so Bjorn continued. "The collective is coming for humanity. In 6 months, maybe less, they will attack our core worlds. Billions will die. But they are coming for you too. You hide well, but you cannot hide forever. Eventually, they will find this place. And when they do, will there be anyone left to stand with you?" Another ancient dragon, scarred from countless battles, sent thoughts like thunder. "We have fought the collective for 1,000 years. We do not need help from children who barely understand fire." "Then why are you losing?" Bjorn asked quietly. The chamber went very still. He pressed on. The collective has driven you here to this last sanctuary. Every year there are fewer of you. Eventually there will be none. You are strong, but strength alone is not enough. Show us, Grandmother Sira commanded. Show us why we should believe in human worth. Bjorn understood. They wanted to test him, to peer into his soul and judge what they found there. He had experienced this once before, briefly. When the mother dragon first created their bond, this would be deeper, more invasive. There would be no secrets left when they finished. Do it, he said. The ancient minds crashed into his like a tidal wave. They tore through his memories, examining everything. His childhood in Norway, playing in snow while his grandfather told stories of old gods. His military training, learning to be a weapon. His first combat, the fear and the adrenaline. His squad, brothers and sisters in all but blood. Their deaths one by one in battles that meant nothing in the end. They saw his guilt for surviving when others did not. His loneliness after leaving the military. His emptiness while wandering from job to job, never finding purpose. They saw the moment he found Ember in the crashed ship. The decision to help instead of walking away. The connection that formed when he shared his food. They saw his choice to stand between the mother dragon and human forces. His willingness to be called a traitor rather than abandon someone who needed protection. They saw him fight beside the dragons against the collective. Saw him take wounds meant for Ember. Saw his desperate plan to reach this sanctuary. And they saw something else, something Bjorn had not fully realized himself. Love. Not romantic love, but something deeper. He loved these strange creatures who breathed fire and spoke in thoughts. He loved Ember like a son. He loved the mother dragon like a sister. He would die for them without hesitation, and that truth shone in his memories like a beacon. The ancient minds withdrew and Bjorn collapsed to his knees. Blood dripped from his nose. His head felt like it had been cracked open and examined. But he was alive and he had hidden nothing. Grandmother Sira's thoughts were gentler now, almost warm. We see truth in you, Bjorn Eriksson. You are the first human we have met. And you chose compassion when survival said to be cruel. You chose family when logic said to be alone. This speaks well of your kind. Then you will help us? Bjorn asked, hope rising in his chest. We will do more than help. We will stand with you. But know this, an alliance requires both sides to give. What can humanity offer us beyond your deaths in our shared battles? Bjorn thought carefully. What could humanity offer beings this old and powerful? Then he remembered Ruth's comment about Droll biology, how their scales adapted to threats but slowly. And he remembered the human ability to innovate, to combine old things in new ways. We can teach you to think like us, Bjorn said. Fast, adaptable, creative, you have strength and wisdom. We have chaos and innovation. The collective has never fought an alliance like that before. They will not know how to adapt. The council conferred among themselves in thoughts too complex for Bjorn to follow. Finally, Grandmother Sira spoke again. Very well, we accept alliance, but there are conditions. First, you will remain here and train with us. Learn our ways as we learn yours. Second, your scientists will work with ours to create new weapons. Third, when we fight the collective, humans and Droll will fight as one force, not two separate armies. Agreed, Bjorn said immediately. There is one more thing. Grandmother Sira's massive head lowered until her eye was level with Bjorn. You carry a flame oath with your dragon family, but to command our combined forces, you must carry something greater, a covenant that binds you to all Droll, not just one family. This is called the Soul Fire. It will change you, make you part of both worlds. Do you accept? Bjorn looked at his hands, still human and fragile. He thought about Earth, about his own kind. If he accepted this, would he still be fully human? Or would he become something else caught between two species? Then he thought about Ember, recovering in healing pools, about the mother dragon who had risked everything for him, about every Droll in this sanctuary who would fight beside humanity, about every human who would benefit from this alliance. I accept. The ancient dragons rose as one, and their combined thoughts joined together. Energy flowed from them into Bjorn, and he screamed as fire filled his veins. Not destroying him, but changing him. Remaking him. His eyes began to glow faintly like Droll eyes. His perception expanded, allowing him to sense heat and energy like they did. The bond with Ember's mother became 100 times stronger, and new bonds formed with every Droll in the sanctuary. He was no longer just Bjorn Eriksson, human mercenary. He was now the Soul Fire, the bridge between two species, the living promise of alliance. When the transformation ended, Bjorn stood different but still himself. The ancient dragons bowed their heads in respect, and he bowed back. Together they began to plan. Training programs where humans learned to coordinate with Droll in combat. Research labs where both species' best minds worked on new weapons. Strategy sessions combining human tactics with Droll power. It took 3 months to prepare, but when they finished, they had created something the galaxy had never seen. A mixed fleet launched from the sanctuary. 50 Droll warriors flying alongside 30 human ships. Bjorn commanded from the flagship, a ship built by both species working together. Ember, now healed and growing fast, led the Droll fighters. The mother dragon flew beside the flagship, her wounds repaired and her spirit fierce. They arrived at Earth just as the collective fleet began its assault. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. Human adaptability combined with Droll power created chaos the collective could not counter. Every time they adapted to one tactic, humans switched to another. Every time they tried to flank, Droll warriors appeared and scattered their formations. The fighting was brutal and desperate. Ships burned on both sides, heroes died and legends were born, but in the end, humanity and Droll stood victorious. The collective fleet was destroyed and Earth survived. That first battle was just the beginning. The war lasted 5 more years, spreading across dozens of star systems. But humanity and Droll fought together throughout all of it, learning from each other, saving each other. Other species saw this alliance and chose to join rather than face the collective alone. Now Bjorn stood in a garden on Haven's Reach, the Droll sanctuary world that had become the Alliance's headquarters. Earth plants grew alongside Droll crystal formations. Human children played with young Droll, neither side seeing the other as strange anymore. Ships came and went, carrying mixed crews who thought nothing of having both humans and dragons working side by side. Ember approached, no longer small but not quite full-grown. The dragon had become a symbol of the new generation, those who knew only cooperation. Remember when I was small? Ember's thoughts carried amusement. When you found me dying? I remember you ate all my food and did not even say thank you, Bjorn replied with a smile. I was hungry, and you never complained. The mother dragon joined them, walking with a slight limp from old wounds but otherwise healthy. She had become an admiral in the combined fleet, respected by both species. My child speaks truth. You gave without expecting return. That is why this works. Both species learned to give freely. Bjorn watched the sunset paint strange colors across the sky. In the distance, he could see the memorial, a statue showing a human sharing food with a small dragon. The inscription was simple. Here began the alliance. Do you regret it? The mother dragon asked. Leaving your simple life behind? Bjorn thought about the quiet mercenary he had been, the lonely wanderer seeking purpose. Then he looked around at the bustling spaceport, at humans and Droll working together, at the children of both species playing without fear. Regret? He laughed. I've found exactly what I was searching for all along. What was that? Home, family, purpose. He put a hand on Ember's shoulder. I found where I belong. As stars emerged in the darkening sky, Bjorn allowed himself a moment of peace. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The collective was wounded but not defeated. There were still battles to fight, still sacrifices to make. But today, in this moment, he could simply be grateful, all because one day in the frozen wastes of a harsh world, he chose kindness over caution. He chose to feed a hungry creature rather than walk away. That single choice rippled outward, changing the fate of 2 species and reshaping the galaxy. Sometimes the smallest acts of compassion create the greatest legends.